not waste your time using the same study techniques that you've been using for years that have been giving you average results. It's not too late to learn how to study. For years and years, we've been sold the lie that all it takes for you to get good results is just for you to study. It's complete BS. It does not matter how much you study, but what really matters is the quality of your study. And that's why I've taken out the time to go over 100 study techniques, and I picked out the top 10 that have sincerely helped me as a first class mechanical engineering student. And I'm going to go deeper into why the 10 of them work and how you can use them to actually get the grades that you deserve. And pay attention to number 3 and number 6 because they're sincerely my personal favorites. Anyways, let's get into it. So we've all been in the case whereby we wanted to study, and then we look at all the things we've written over the past few weeks and we're like, God, what is this rubbish that I've written? And that's where the Cornell method comes into play. The Cornell method is simply a process of separating your notes into cues, notes, and summary. So what you're going to do is you have your notes written on the main page. Then in the margins, you now have cues that can help you to remember those kind of things. And that cues can be used in different ways, and I'll explain the cues much more in my point number 8. So those cues are just simply triggers that can actually help you to remember what you've actually read, and then your summary at the ending. It's not the kind of thing you should do while just looking at the page, because that would be a form of passive learning, and passive learning, as we know, understand, does not get you anywhere. You only remember the things that you actively participate in. And so that's why when you're doing your summary, you should do it from a form of, okay, let's try and write what I remember from writing all these notes and from writing all these triggers. This Cornell method is simply a fancy way to simply say margin notes. Margin notes is also a study technique whereby you just write all the study techniques by the side. Write all the things that you've learned, in smaller points on the margins, in just a summarized way that you can easily remember them. Because sincerely, if you don't remember what you read, what's really the point? But the thing is, sometimes we actually do study techniques like that and we still don't remember them in the long run. And that's where this second study technique comes in, and we all know it. It's called spaced repetition. There was a time when on a particular day I was having a biology test I can never forget, and I read the exact thing that came out in that test a few minutes before it, but I got the test and I could barely remember shit, and I knew that it was not an attack of the enemy. Sincerely, there's something that spaced repetition sincerely does to your memory that really helps you to remember it over the long run. Because if we look at the forgetting graph, over a long period of time, if things are not revised, they just simply elude out of your memory. And when you've just read them for a few minutes, they are not really solidified in your memory, and so it will be hard for you to recall. And that's one of the things that makes cramming a terrible study method to use. And that's why spaced repetition is just so good, because when it comes for you to recall it and actually tell it in exam hall, it will be much easier for you to remember, because you've gone over that material over and over and over again. But sometimes in our academic journey, when we've actually read it over a long period of time, we find it hard to bring that information out of our heads in a way that will actually be profitable, and in a way that our lecturer will be able to see that, oh, they actually understand this material. And that's why I really love this number 3. This number 3 has saved me in courses that I practically did not know nothing about, and has helped me to understand them and truly grasp the material in ways that I've never seen before. And it is simply called blurting. So blurting is just simply a method whereby you read on a subject, and sometimes maybe after you read, but preferably before you read, you write down every single thing you can remember on the course. Why are we doing this? Because when you do it, you understand which parts of the course that you've not understood yet. You start to understand, okay, this is where I need to fill in the gap. This is where I need to touch a whole lot more. These are the things I cannot remember. And this is really, really good for courses that actually have a lot of details, like biology, all these writing courses, chemistry, those kind of things that require you to remember a lot of things. So it just helps you, to understand the gaps in your knowledge and the gaps in what you are actually remembering. Because you will never know what you cannot remember until you practice actually remembering the thing. And that's what makes blurting such an efficient study method to use. And this one that I'm about to talk about now is an OG method. Like, if you never used this, you never went to primary school. It's been with us for a very long time, and maybe you just didn't know the name, but it has saved you right from primary school up until now, and it is simply called mnemonics. We all used it that time, to remember the solar system, to remember so many other things. But after your teacher stopped creating mnemonics for you, you stopped using it. Why? Up until now, I still use mnemonics in all my subjects. Even in my fluid mechanics that I'm doing at fund level, anything that I can see that is a list that requires me to remember something, I just simply create mnemonics with it, because those things sincerely help you to remember it a whole lot more. There was a time this past semester I was trying my best to read some four particular points I needed to remember together, and I was struggling. I kept reading it over and over again. But the second I did a mnemonics for it, and I tried recalling it after I did the mnemonics, it was so much more easier to remember. So mnemonics might just be the difference between remembering all the 4 points and getting that complete marks that you deserve, and you remembering only two and getting half the amount of marks. And this next one is sincerely like a key, especially in university, but it's actually also very, very helpful when you're in secondary school. And because this one helps you to familiarize yourself with what the lecturer can possibly bring out, and can also help you to give you an idea of the structures that the lecturer is about to use. And this study method is simply called practice questions, but it is also called um practice questions and error analysis, and it's also called mock exams, because practice questions not just about practicing the questions. That's why I love the full name. It's called practice questions and error analysis. When you're doing your practice questions, you're supposed to like do it without referencing your notes, so that you can understand the topics that you're finding a whole lot harder to solve, and also see the little errors that you are making. That was something that I really employed this my last exam. Whenever I'm doing practice questions, I look, okay, what this was something that I found hard to remember. This was a mistake I made, and I write it down so that I will not make that mistake the next time. But if you just do the practice question, you just mark it, blah 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 blah. Oh wow, I got 36. I should do another one. You keep on getting 36, 36, 36. You're not learning anything from that process. But the real power of practice questions comes when you analyze the errors that you're making while doing those past questions. And if you're learning anything so far and you think that this video is valuable, I think you should just give this video a like and share this with another student that will possibly actually need this video. Thank you so much. So this next one has saved me with courses that sincerely give me anxiety. There's some courses that you look at the coursework and you're like, God, what is this rubbish? Why do you have 600 slides? Like, I don't get. Okay, I think I'm traumatized now. But like, sincerely, there are those subjects that are just sincerely too bulky, and that's why this study technique is very, very, very efficient. And that's number 6, chunking. So I really like using this for like written courses whereby the course load looks very, very voluminous. And so what I just simply do is, okay, and I say that, okay, this part is all of, and I just try to like summarize what is in that section. It just helps you to just like make all the material there a whole lot smaller, a whole lot simpler than what it truly is. Because when you're looking at it as a 600 page site, you're like, God, what is this rubbish? When you just put the whole thing into a whole page and you just write it as like 10 lines, you realize it's actually not that deep. So it just helps you to grasp what the whole concept is about, and then you can go further to learn the details. But chunking will be a whole lot easier for you once you've actually gone over the whole material. So once you've gone over the whole material, just try to divide every single thing that you've learned into subtopics and topics to a whole lot, to make the whole course that you're reading actually seem a whole lot more containable and a whole lot more understandable than it actually is. This next study technique is the study technique that I would sincerely never recommend to any student, but I'm about to explain it in a way that will actually help you to actually make it active recall, because it is not a form of active recall, but the way I'm about to explain it right now is going to sincerely improve your academics. And number 7 is simply note taking. Note taking is a terrible form of studying, and I'm not even going to lie to you. And the problem with it is that it's even the most popular study technique, and it's not even helping matters. So that biology test I was telling you about, that I did not remember anything. It was note taking that I used to study for that exam, and it did not help me at all. But what can make your note taking a whole lot more efficient is by engaging note taking with revision. And this is something that I've done recently when I'm learning a topic newly, because you cannot just start doing active recall when you've never like read it at all. What are you going to recall? So when you're doing your note taking, you're not just writing like, oh, slide this, blah, 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 write on your notes. And you keep writing. Because you notice when you do that, at the end of all your writing, you try and remember, what was they even talking about? You cannot recall. So as you're writing, every like half page, just look at it. Okay, they said this, this, and this. Call it your memory. You write again. Okay, what did that last place say? You keep revising, keep recalling. What did they say? What did they say? What did they say? Because that helps you to be more engaged with what you're writing in your notes, because that engagement is what you actually call active record. That is why active record is so powerful, because it makes you more engaged with the material. And note taking doesn't work because it simply does not help you to engage with the material. But when you add revision to your note taking, it makes note taking a more active form of reading, and to actually help you to remember things much more easier. So this next one is one that ordinarily I would not include, but it's one that I know that the aesthetic girls like, and I think it's really really nice in some particular cases. And this next one is simply highlighting, and it can also be known as underlining, outlining, and color coding. This is just, I think, a way of organizing your material. There's something that I see a whole lot of other people in the study space doing as well. Whereby they put all their subjects into like different colors, so that they associate. Okay, red is for physics, this is for that, and all that kind of thing. But highlighting can also be used in a way of, okay, you highlight your key points. Highlight the main things that you need to remember. But there's some courses whereby you actually need to remember everything, and so highlighting sometimes cannot work in those kind of cases. But it just helps you, to know the most important key things that will help you to remember everything. So you can use that highlighting and outlining to remember all the other things. And not just, like I said before, you can also use this to organize. Another way you can also organize if you don't want to use colors is by dividing your notes into like different sections. When I was in 100 level, I used to write all my notes inside one book, and by the time it's time for me to read for exam, I'm sincerely frustrated and I don't know what I'm writing. Like, I'm just looking like, oh, where did I write this subject? There was this note I wrote that time, there was that AOC, I cannot see it anymore. Because why? Everything is just scattered everywhere. But one thing that really helps is dividing your notes for every subject, so that when you're looking for things, it will be a whole lot easier for you to remember. That as you're reading, you're going through a constant flow. That this set of pages are just for this subject, and it just helps you to be more organized, and it just helps you to be more calm when you're reading, and just makes everything a whole lot easier for you. Number 9, this is one that I sincerely really really like. I don't know why I did not say I like this, but this is simply mind mapping, and it's also called diagramming and hierarchical organization. So what I simply do when I want to do mind mapping, I just write, okay, let's say the course now is called metallurgy. I don't know why this course keep coming to my mind and I don't like it. Then from that main circle, you draw out all the main subtopics, and then under those subtopics, write as much as you can remember about the topic. And why I like mind mapping, it just helps you to organize your thoughts, and also a form of you bringing those thoughts into remembrance and bringing them, for you to revise them. It just really helps you in organizing everything, especially the other way of calling it hierarchical organization. It just helps you to understand, okay, this is where this course is meant to be, this is what this topic is, and everything. And it just helps you to remember them and help you to organize that information in your head. And you don't have to always use this as a form of you can also just use this as a way to organize the things that you're about to learn as well. So mind mapping and diagramming or hierarchical organization is a really really efficient technique, that can actually help you to just make sense of what you're actually reading. And this last one is one that has actually come up more recently, because of the generation we're in right now, and that is just technology aids. We're in a time now where we don't have to ask somebody else to teach us. We're in a time now where you don't have to, go to the teacher's office and all those kind of things. You can use other sources like ChatGPT, Tia Study, YouTube. There's so many other resources out there that can help you to make your study sessions a whole lot more effective. Sometimes what might take you like 10 hours to comprehend by yourself, you just watch a 5-minute video and boom, you understand it. So you don't need to go through that stress anymore. Things like this can just make your study session a whole lot easier. And one thing I'm very very guilty of using is ChatGPT. When I see myself, I'm reading a part of the PowerPoint and I'm like not making sense any out of that nonsense. Straight up, I'm copying that particular passage, I'm pasting it into ChatGPT, I'm telling it, oh, make a simpler version, or like explain this in a simpler way for me to understand. And that way I'm able to grasp the information a whole lot more, because you understanding the information, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to remember. Once again, that is why cramming is a very inefficient way to actually study. But sometimes knowing how to study is not really like the end of everything. Sometimes you can study, but then at some point in your study sessions, your energy might start to deteriorate, your focus might start to go down, you might start feeling a little terrible. So I'm going to also explain to you like how I actually am able to study 42 plus hours in a week while still being focused, all while not getting burnt out. And I'm going to explain that deeper in the video by this side. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I hope to see you in another video. Yeah, bye.